I have to turn on my mic. Okay, morning everyone. Welcome. Let's call to order this hearing of the Assessment Appeals Board number 1 for January 29th, 2018. And we'll start with a roll call, please.
And, sorry, already having technical difficulties. Board Member Crow.
Present.
Board Member Curtis.
Present.
Board Member Stern.
Present.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So let's go next to the Pledge of Allegiance, and so I'll ask everyone to stand, please. And then if you do intend to provide testimony today, please remain standing, and we'll get you sworn in right after this. Okay? Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. And then if you do intend to provide testimony today, please remain standing, and our clerk, Mr. Vlahakis, will swear you in.
Someone down here. I'll now place you under oath. When I complete stating your oath, please state I do. You each of you to solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matters now pending before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. You may now be seated.
Okay, great. So what we'll do next is go through each of the agenda items to determine the status of each, and then we'll come back at the end and hear those cases that will move forward. And first we'll go through agenda review, which is a group of motions all together that hopefully we can take action on in the name of efficiency. And Mr. Vlahakis, go ahead.
All right. Yes. Item 5, agenda review. The clerk of the board requests approval of the agenda review by the Assessment Appeals Board. The agenda review consists of the following agenda items. Item number 24, application number 17-10018, applicant Julius A. and Ellen Kaufman Trust. Julius Kaufman, denied due to lack of appearance. Sorry. Item number 28, application number 17-10212, applicant Jose Lucio, denied due to lack of appearance. Item number 29, application number 17-10230, applicant first name A-S-H-R-A-F, last name N-A-S-H-E-D, continued to March 5th, 2018, pending receipt of original stipulation. And items 30 through 32, application number 17-10231 through 17-10233, applicant, same applicant, first name A-S-H-R-A-F, last name N-A-S-H-E-D. This is going to be removed from the agenda due to the submission of a withdrawal. Item number 33, application number 17-10234, applicant Mackey Family Trust, Roger Mackey, continued to March 5th, 2018, pending receipt of original stipulation. Item number 34, application number 17-10245, applicant Jordan S. and Wendy B. Rosen, denied due to lack of appearance. And item number 35, application number 17-10599, applicant Grimes Rock Incorporated, removed from the agenda. That completes the agenda review. Recommended action is to approve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vlahakis. Before we move forward, is anyone in the audience here representing any of the items that were just called on the agenda review? Okay, any questions or comments from the board? And if not, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved. I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's moved by Mr. Curtis and seconded by Mr. Crow. And
if you're voting, or if your terminals allow you, please vote. If they are not working, oh, there we go. Thank you.
I forgot if it was a touch screen or not, so I was touching the screen, and it's not a touch screen.
No, it should be.
Oh, it is?
We'll have to troubleshoot that later.
Okay, anyway. We'll go then through the rest of the agenda items to determine their status. But before we do, we'll take a moment for any public comments. If anyone has a comment on an item that is not on the agenda today, this would be the time to discuss that. Okay, don't see anyone coming forward for public comments. And next, we'll do the same for board comments.
Wanted to just give a shout out to Brendan, our clerk, especially the hearing officer. I just wanted to tell him that I appreciate all of his great clerkship. He really does have a great sense about him as far as facilitating not only this meeting, but the hearing officer meeting. So I just wanted to mention that. I haven't said that in a while, so. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, I appreciate the compliment.
Thanks, Mr. Curtis, and echo those sentiments. Any other board comment?
I just second Vince's comments here.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Crow, and same with me. So we'll go next to item 8 on the agenda, application 16-10047.
Okay.
We're just going to wait 1 minute until we have everything worked out with our recording system.
Sorry about that. We won't be able to show what the current item is on the public screens for today, but yes, we're at item 8. I apologize for the interruption.
Okay, so I'll start over. Item 8, application 16-10047. Applicant is Eric Bartolotto. Come on up. When we call you, come on up to the podium, and then and
Yes,
we'll
sir.
go from there. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Let's wait 1 second until
Yes,
we're...
sir.
Okay, could you please state your name for the record?
Christopher Mendenhall.
Okay, Mr. Mendenhall, are you prepared to move forward today?
We're asking for an extension. I met with the appraisers with the assessor's office, and we have a plan as far as, she needs 45 days to look at the materials that we've been able to get together, so we're asking for an extension this morning.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to the assessor's office for any comments.
Good morning, Christopher Horn for the Assessor's Office.
Morning.
Yes, there a continuance is in order for the applicant. There was more data that needed to be provided. Apparently, there were outstanding legal issues that needed to be remedied, and documentation from that provided to the Assessor's Office. So we have no problem agreeing to a continuance.
Okay, Mr. Horn, is there a suggested date for continuance?
The applicants said 45 days. I don't know how that works within the clerk of the board's office.
The dates we currently have available are March 5th and April 16th, so it sounds like maybe the March 16th would be the better date. Or April 16th would be the better date.
Yes, sir, that works for us, thank you.
And
Okay.
that works for the assessor as well.
Okay, before we move forward, are there any questions from the board for either? Okay, and so sounds like from the applicant, April 16th does
sir.
work, and also from the assessor, so we'll look for a motion to continue to April 16th.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis and seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have item 9, application 16-10088. Applicant is Shine Trust. Looks like we're continued from May 5th. Come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Could you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Gary Shine.
Hi, Mr. Shine. Are you prepared to move forward today?
I am, thank you.
Okay. And we'll go to the assessor's office for any comments.
The assessor is also ready to move forward today.
Okay. And Mr. Shine, do you have approximate time that you would guess that it would take to present your information?
10 minutes or less.
Okay.
For the assessor, about 15 minutes.
Okay. So what we'll do is go through the rest of the agenda to determine the status, and we'll come back to you
Thank you.
as quickly as we can. Thank you. Okay, next item 10, application 16-10128. Applicant is Mason Partners LLC. Good morning.
Jody Hahn for Mason Partners.
Hi, Mr. Hahn. Are you prepared to move forward today?
No,
Okay.
we are waiting the assessor to enroll a supplemental assessment, and that has not occurred yet.
Okay. Any comments from the assessor?
Good morning, Mr. Hahn. That is correct. There is an assessment role change that is in the process of being worked and process, which, if I'm not mistaken, would nullify this appeal. So what we're doing is waiting for that ARC to be sent through the system, and I believe that Mr. Hahn is just keeping this open for protective reasons. So a continuance is in order. I don't know how long it's going to take for it to go through the assessor's office to the auditor, and for your client to get notification. Mr. Clerk of the Board, is there a possibility we can push this off beyond April 16th?
We can do, since it's just to kind of get the paperwork going, we could do June 4th, 2018, if that's okay with everybody.
The assessor is amiable to that.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board?
No.
Okay, so then I think we're looking for a motion to continue to June 4th of 18.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. Thanks.
One more vote, please.
Oh.
Thank you. Oh, and their results are back up on the screen. All right.
And I think next up we have item 11.
That's correct.
Okay, item 11, application 16-10668. Applicant is MKRRP 400 National Way LLC.
This is a request to approve a stipulation reduction in amount of over $5 million, so therefore it's on your board's regular agenda for approval. This is routed to the board last Thursday or Friday by email, and is in the materials you have in front of you today. Should you have any questions regarding the reduction?
Okay, would anyone like to review before we?
Yeah, I'd like
Approve
to understand what building we're talking about, or what property this is.
Mr. Crowe, I'll have the assessor rep come up to the stand and talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
Which one of you lucky contestants was in charge?
And Mr. Vlahakis, the stipulation should be in our regular packet,
It's the very
right?
first one in the packet.
Oh, it
With
is.
the memo on the front. Yes.
Mr. Crowe, would you like to review it?
I've seen them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Hi,
Good morning, Steve Bates with the Assessor's Office.
morning.
So this,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So this property is located in Simi Valley. It was previously occupied by Bank of America. And we are requesting for a reduction $15.5 million. So this property has not been occupied since Bank of America left. And that's,
Okay.
I'm sorry, did I answer the question?
Okay. How do, your valuation there, you used a discounted cash flow on it? Is that how you got it?
Yes, yes, we used a discounted cash flow analysis on that,
Okay,
on that
so
property to derive
it's-
the value.
It's a difficult building to convert, is that correct?
Yes, they were unable to find a tenant. They came close to leasing to the Guitar Center as a headquarters, and that fell through, so they've actually had trouble leasing this property.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Where's it located?
Simi Valley.
I mean, what street?
It's actually located on, it is,
Madera Road, north of 118.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. No other questions?
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And so we'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. Next up, we have item 12, application 16-10820.
Yeah, for item 12, this has a stipulation that was submitted this morning. They were in the red envelope. I don't know if
Yep.
council's got those around yet. And so the requested or action is for the board to approve the stipulation.
Okay, so I'll make sure everyone has a chance to review it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? And if not, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow. Motion carries. Next, we have item 13. Application 16-10876.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Board members. Brad DeWitt with California Resources Corporation. Here today just to ask for another continuance. We've had two already. We're working with the assessor's office. We've supplied them some information already, which they have considered and have come back to us and asked for us for additional information, which we're working on locating. We truly believe that we can get this situation resolved as far as an agreeable assessment. This will roll into a 2017 appeal as well. And so hopefully if we can get the foundation laid and this corrected, then we'll be okay to go. As far as if you do grant the continuance, perhaps we can consider sometime in the August-October timeframe. I know we're about to get into our busy filing season, and the assessor then will roll into their assessment season. And so if we could set a date that far out, that's what I would be requesting today.
Okay, thanks, Mr. DeWitt. Any comments from the assessor?
To Mr. DeWitt, how long do you think it would take for the additional information to get to the assessor's office?
Well, we've been working on it, and we have it's an accounting function. We have an accounting group, but inside that accounting group, we have a technical accounting group that has to help us with this forensics. So weeks, I'd say a month's time, something like that.
So if we requested a proviso of 45 days, that would be sufficient?
I believe that would be sufficient to get the information to the assessor.
Assessor's office, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We have no problem with the continuance, whatever the clerk of the board is willing to grant at this time. We just would like the 45-day proviso on the outstanding information.
Okay. There was a request in for the range of August through October. I'm not sure if that
Well,
time is needed or what?
So the applicant would be required to sign a 2-year waiver because the 2-year period expires September 5th, 2018 for this appeal. So anywhere within 180 days before that would require the waiver. So especially surpassing that and going to October, So first question would be, would you be willing to waive the 2-year period?
Would we be able to set it in August? Because I believe you closed the roll.
We won't have any hearings in August. The board's last hearing before summer break is June, June 4th. And even if we did have August, it's still within 180 days of the expiration, so we'd still require the waiver.
Well, based on my conversations with the assessor and the way this has been going, I have no problem signing the waiver.
Okay. So contingent on the applicant completing this waiver today, I would be okay with consolidating it with his 2017 application, which is scheduled for October 29th, 2018, if all parties are okay with that date.
Okay, October 29th, okay with the assessor?
October 29th works well because, like the clerk of the board said, we'll be able to consolidate.
Okay. And any questions from the board? Okay, so then I think we're looking for, Mr. Horn, is the assessor requesting a 45-day period?
Yes, from today.
From today to receive information from the applicant?
Because of the detailed nature of this appeal, having the documents sooner than later, I believe will benefit all parties, and we might be able to resolve both the 16 and the 17 without having to hit October.
Okay. So looks like we would need a motion to continue to October 29th. Go ahead, Mr. Blahowicz.
I was going to restate. So the pending possible motion is continue to October 29th, 2018, with the proviso that requested data be provided to the assessor within 45 days of today, and a 2-year waiver be signed and submitted to the clerk of the board.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then will you email that waiver, or do you need that signed?
You need to sign before you do.
So we're looking for a motion to that effect. Ms. Porsche, did you have a
Same point as
comment? Okay. So,
So approved, or motion to approve.
A second.
okay. Thanks. Moved by Mr. Crowe, seconded by Mr. Curtis, and motion carries.
All right, thank you. I'll get this filled out and
Thank you.
clerk before I leave. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have items 14 and 15. We'll wait 1 second before we move forward. Okay, 14 and 15 on the agenda, applications 16-10882 and 883. Applicant is Skyworks Solutions, Inc. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Rick Izumi, representative for the taxpayer. And
Good morning. Are you prepared to move forward today?
actually, we're going to ask for a continuance. It's actually, I believe, a joint continuance with the assessor's office. We have provided information the assessor's reviewing, and then also want to schedule a tour of the facility in February. And so we just need additional time in order to do that.
Okay.
And I know this is the 2016 case. There's also, I think, a 17 case that's coming up in March. So, if we can postpone this to the April 16th date, I think that hopefully will give both parties plenty of time to fulfill everyone's needs.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the assessor?
The assessor agrees the site check is in order, and so is a continuance. We would like if we're going to continue this until April 16th, we would like a site check within 30 days.
Okay. Is that agreeable to the applicant?
30 days. Yeah, we should, within February, we should be able to do that. No problem.
Okay.
Yes.
And any questions, comments from the board? Okay, so we're in April 16th. It sounds like both parties were okay with that, so we're looking for a motion to continue to April 16th with the condition that the applicant is willing to schedule a site check within 30 days of today.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis and seconded by Mr. Crowe. And motion carries.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 16.
Yes, this is another stipulation that was submitted this morning and read it to the board. It was
Got
in
it.
the red folder with the other two. So the recommended action is to approve.
Okay, and so we'll circulate the stipulation right now, and this is application 16-11094, Granite Construction Company. Okay, any questions, comments from the board?
I have none.
Okay, so then we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I will second that motion.
Moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crowe. Motion carries.
Did everybody vote? One more, thank you.
And next up, item 17. Application 16-11400.
This stipulation was provided in the packet emailed to you last week. Recommended action is to approve the stipulation.
Okay, any questions, or would anyone like to review the stipulation again? Okay. Then we'll look for a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crowe, and motion carries.
One more vote. Is it giving you an issue? I'll just go ahead and mark it yes.
Sometimes it's a touchscreen, sometimes it isn't. That's what we've determined. Okay, next up is item 18. And this is application 16-11468. Applicant is Richard Zeller.
Richard Sauer, I'm ready to proceed.
Good morning. Okay. Any comments from the assessor?
The assessor is also ready to proceed. We're estimating 15 minutes.
Okay. And Mr. Zeller?
5 minutes?
Okay. So we'll come back to you shortly as soon as we get through the rest of the agenda items. Thank you. And next we have items 19 through 22, applications 16-11535 through 38, and the applicant is OSF Medical Group of California.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Dennis Sarna, and I am the representative. At the suggestion of our appeals auditor, we're requesting a continuance until April 16th so that the appeals auditor can make a site visit and review the documentation that he has recently received.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Sarna. Any comments from the assessor?
The assessor also agrees the site check is in order. We'd like that done within 30 days.
No problem.
And it's my understanding there was 1 year of data that was still outstanding. Was that provided to?
We believe it was. I would have, because we were recently assigned as a representative, we'd have to check our files, but I
Okay.
believe it was sent.
Mr. Escora, right there, will talk to you about any additional data that needs to be provided. So let's do 30 days for the site check and also 30 days for any additional data.
Okay.
Thank you.
And both of those are agreeable to the applicant?
That'd be perfect.
Okay. Any questions from the board? So we'll look for a continuance to April 16th with the conditions of data requested by the assessor being supplied within 30 days and also a site check.
Okay.
So moved.
Thank you.
I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crowe, and motion carries.
Not working for you anymore? Okay, I'm just gonna mark
There
you
it goes.
yes unless you tell me to say
Keep
no.
touching it, I guess. I'll have changed fingers, I guess.
Okay, next up, item 23, application 17-10004. Applicant Carmen and Ruel Mizrachi.
This is a request to amend the application. I will hand out the request real quickly. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Vlahakis, I'm sorry, what did you just say before you handed it out?
Yes, this is a request to amend the application to add an additional selection. Sir, would you like to just recap what you're requesting from the board today?
Yes, I'm here to request, my name is Ruel Mizrahi.
Great, thank you.
Good morning. I'm here to request the amending of my original assessment appeal application. Because originally I was requesting a review of subsequent years. I purchased the property in 2014. That's my base year. I'm a resident of that property, and I want a revisiting of the original valuation of the property. I think it was over-valuated, and I would like a review of that by the county assessor's office. I'm not sure that I've made myself clear as to the reason that I have to amend my original petition is that the time has expired in subsequent years, that is 2015 and 16, to be able to enforce that appeal if it were granted and ask for a refund. I'm too late for that. So I want to have an application that addresses the value of the property going forward based on Prop 13. So that's what I would like, a revisiting of the my purchase base year. I think it was over-evaluated, to repeat myself.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mizrahi. And any comments from the assessor?
The assessor has looked at property tax rule 305E2B that states the applicant or the applicant's agent may amend an application provided that the effect of the amendment is not to request relief additional to or different in nature than that originally requested. Because this is going back multiple years, it is additional relief, and it would also go forward in perpetuity forever how long the applicant owned the property. So we would like the board to take that into consideration in their decision.
Is it the assessor's
Yes.
position to grant or deny the request?
We would like it noted for the record that we oppose the amendment.
Okay.
Could the assessor please repeat the code
sure.
sections?
Sure.
I mean, the property tax rule sections.
Property tax rule 305, section E, 2B, as in boy.
I think I have some additional, first I'll clarify, sir, your purchase date was August 21st, 2014, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm looking at an opinion letter from the Board of Equalization right now on this. I don't have time to find the exact point that addresses this, but I'll read this paragraph. You may submit to the Assessment Appeals Board a written request to amend the application to state additional facts that a reduction is requested on the original assessment. The Appeals Board may, in its discretion, grant your request to amend the application, but as a condition, oh, sorry, that's just the 2-year period.
So just to be clear, you want your base year value reevaluated?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And I'm not really seeking any further relief. I just want to reestablish what should have been set in the first place. And it's my responsibility that I neglected to do this sooner. And nevertheless, I think there's validity to my argument, to my position, that I'm entitled to that baseline that actually occurred in 2014. I still want that as, and I think I'm entitled to retaining that as a proper assessment of the property, which was not done in the first place.
Understood. So to the assessor, is there a time limit?
Is there a time limit?
As far as the applicant,
4 years. So he's within his 4-year period from the date of purchase. The issue at hand is that the application that was filed was for a Prop 8 review, not a base year review.
gotcha.
I found additional information of what I was referring to. If I could just, I'll quickly read this. This is annotation 180.0012 from the California State Board of Equalization, page 2, last paragraph. The plain language of subsection E2C provides an appeals board may grant a request for an amendment that requests relief additional to or different from in nature from that originally requested in the application, such that as the addition of a class of property that could have been appealed at the time the application was filed. The phrase additional facts claimed to require a reduction corresponds to the facts stated in section 6 of the application, which the applicant claims are relied upon to support the requested change in value. The applicant states the facts, i.e. requested relief, by checking one or more boxes in section 6, and section 6 includes boxes for personal property and real property. In this case, the request for real property value reduction could have been stated in the original application for the year of the escape assessment. Thus, the additional facts referred to in subsection E2C includes the type of relief requested by the company. Furthermore, the rulemaking record discloses that this provision was intended to allow the type of amendment under discussion. The amendment of subsection E was proposed by staff to and said, under this authority, the local board may accept amendments to consider any request for relief that could have been made part of the original application for the property and the assessment year that is the subject of the application. Based on that statement from the Board of Equalization, because they were eligible to mark this when they filed the application, it is the clerk's position, and it's previously been the board's position, that they be allowed to amend Section 6 to anything they were eligible to do on the day they filed the application.
I have a question for the assessor. I do agree with the clerk's construction of that provision. However, would the relief be only on a going forward basis, or do you have any information about whether or not the applicant could get retroactive relief past the date of filing the application itself?
No, he wouldn't. Okay. This would be prospective in nature only.
Okay.
He wouldn't be able to go back and ask for relief for the supplemental or any subsequent years. It would be this year forward.
It's council's view that the board may grant the applicant's request to challenge the base year. However, the relief for the challenging the base year is only on a going forward basis. If you miss 1 or 2 or more years back, you wouldn't be able to get retroactive tax relief for those years.
Understandably, and that's really why I'm here, simply to ask for a revision of the original assessment going forward, not trying to get reimbursed. So I erroneously filed, misstated what I was seeking in the application, because I was not, the time had expired and I was not entitled to seek reimbursement for any prior years. I understand that. I should add that I was advised by members of the assessors board, if you would not board, but the department, to do exactly what I'm doing, to come in here and ask for a revision of the application. So I'm actually following procedure of some of your employees in being here.
That is correct. In issues that involve applications and amendments, we always put it towards the clerk of the board and the board to make that decision, because that's out of our purview. That's the reason why you were directed here today.
Well, I'm glad it's out of your purview, sir.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, comments from the board?
Is the assessor prepared to go forward with, in defense of this application?
To interject, there would be a mandatory 45-day continuance after the board approves this action.
Yeah, I think it would get continued schedule. Any other questions or comments?
My motion is to approve the applicant's request.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a,
But before we make this final, are we also setting a hearing date?
That'll be next after the board approves
Okay,
this,
just
yes.
making sure.
Okay.
okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crowe, and motion carries. And so in terms of scheduling, Mr. Vlahakis, do you have a date?
Yeah, we can do, oh, I should have done the math. I don't think March 5th is 45 days, so we can do April 16th if that works.
Okay, Mr. and Ms. Rocky, is April 16th?
Yes, I'm not clear on the purpose of that hearing. Is it to simply review the results of a reassessment based on the base year of 2014? I'm not sure if
We'll
what
let
this
the,
hearing will be
Mr. Horn
about.
answer.
The soon-to-be scheduled hearing is being set just in case the two parties, you and the assessor, are unable to come to an agreement, and then you'll be able to come here and present your case in front of the board and let them decide. Between now and 30 days, I took a quick look at this, and it looks like we accepted the sales price. So we would like any information with regards to the sale itself. We would like the appraisal, if one was done, the closing statement, and also any inspection report.
Now, these should be available to a deputy assessor that makes contact. At what point will I need to provide this?
Within 30 days to the person assigned to the case.
Okay.
Who
I'll be contacted by said person?
You've been in contact with Mr. Denham, and you just need to get the documents, and then Mr. Denham will talk to you about how to provide them to the assessor.
Okay, so we'll be in a discussion,
Yes.
Mr. Denham and myself, as to specifically what documents
Yes.
he required. Okay, and I'll hear from him within,
Probably about 60 seconds after you
Okay.
leave the podium.
all right, sounds good.
So does
Thank you.
April
Appreciate it.
16th acceptable to all parties?
April 16th for the assessor? Okay.
April 16th is fine.
I
If
believe the applicant said that was acceptable. Go ahead.
my question with regards to the amendment, are we just doing the base year and you're withdrawing the Prop 8 valuation for 2017?
I'm not clear on what that means. I would like the base year to be
Yes.
the substitute, if you will. for-
Well,
to
if
be in
you're,
place of-
let's say you're unsuccessful in your endeavor to get the
Okay.
base year resolved,
Okay.
are you still looking to get a one-year reduction for the
2016.
2017
Sorry.
value?
One step at a time, sure.
Okay.
Now,
So I believe the application needs to have both boxes marked.
Right, there was no request to remove box
Okay.
A, so it's as is, that stands.
The assessor just wanted to know how to proceed with the application.
Okay, so, Mr. Mizraki, the application will have both the base year review and, if it applies a Proposition 8 reduction in value, application for 17 as well, right?
Has there been a vote? Because Mr. Horn
Yes, the vote was complete.
rejected.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't
It
know
was
if we
complete.
voted. So let's just make sure we go back, and the maker of the motion was Mr. Curtis? So, Mr. Curtis, are you okay with ratifying the motion, including what we just talked about?
Right,
with both?
I was approving the applicant's request. So the request is for both, correct?
Yeah, it was only to add the additional selection, so
To
the
add,
application
so-
already had the other stuff in there. We
Yeah,
don't need
base
to-
year in 2017,
Yes.
correct?
Great. Okay, so it was moved by Mr. Curtis, it was seconded by Mr. Crowe. I think we already voted.
Correct.
And that's where we are. Thank you.
A final note to the applicant, if you are stipulating with the assessor, you'll need to be very clear, if the two have a meeting of the minds, if your meeting of the minds is for the one-year Prop 8 appeal, or if your meeting of the minds is for the base year appeal. You'll need to be very clear on that when you stipulate, if you do reach that point with the assessor.
And Mr. Denham is back there in the blue shirt. He'll be corralling you shortly.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, so the board made a motion to approve the amendment. I don't think the board, unless I'm confused, made a motion to continue to April 16th.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to continue to the 16th of April?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Great. Moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow. Motion carries. Thanks, Mr. Vlahakis. And I think we have item 25 next.
That's correct.
Application 17-10054. Applicant is Brian Guthrie.
This is the last one where we have a stipulation for. This was one of the ones provided to the board this morning, I believe. It should be the last one provided to your board this morning. Recommended action is to approve the stipulation.
Okay, we'll take a moment to look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? Okay, then we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I will second that.
Moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. Which takes us to item 26, application 17-10176. Applicant is Musashi Simi, Inc.
I guess this applicant didn't check in today. She had informed she intended to come continue, but she also didn't confirm her appearance. So recommend action is to deny due to lack of appearance.
Okay. Any questions or any info, comments from the assessor?
No additional information from the assessor.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay, so we'll look for a motion to deny due to lack of appearance.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote.
Okay, next is item 27, application 17-10198. Applicant is Lonnie Hanson.
Not
Morning. Could you state your name, please?
Hi, Lonnie J. Hansen.
Good morning, and are you prepared to proceed today?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the assessor with any comments.
The assessor is also ready, estimating 15 minutes.
Okay. And Mr. Hanson, any guess on time it would take to present your information?
10, 15 minutes as well.
Okay. Okay, great. So we will, we just have a handful of items to get through on the agenda, and then we'll come back to you at that time, and then that's when you'll have an opportunity to present your information.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your patience. Okay, next we'll go to validity hearings and application 35, or item 35, application 17-10599.
This was removed from the board's agenda, so it's no longer up for consideration.
Okay.
So that would take us to 36.
Okay, item 36, application 17-11296. Applicant is Cole Irrevocable Trust.
This is a request from the clerk to reject the application due to the agent's noncompliance with our request to provide an agent authorization. No one has checked in for this item or confirmed, but we still would like to address the issue with the board. So I'd recommend we come back to this later in the day since there is no one present for it. And I can just give you the information.
Okay.
Last item of the day.
Thank you. Before we do that, any comments from the assessor?
As this is a validity hearing, this is the clerk of the board's area.
Okay. Thank you. Item 37, I believe.
Yeah, I actually recommend covering 37 and 38 together.
Okay.
They are both requests to accept the applications as timely filed, both represented by Mr. Pugh. And The clerk has some very brief information on this. This just requires the board to take either action to approve or deny the application. So I would recommend we address it right now because it will be very quick, but is up to the board.
That's fine, unless
Okay.
there are any objections.
All right, so
Okay.
I will hand this out real quick.
Good morning. And so I believe we're looking at items 37 and 38. Could you please state your name for the record?
Sure, Kyle Pugh, and good morning, Mr. Board and Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Chair and Mr. Vice Chair, and other distinguished board members.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Pugh. And so you are representing both item 37 and item 38, is that?
That is
right?
correct.
Okay. So first we'll hear some information, I believe, from our clerk that was just passed out, and this will be, do we need to list this as an exhibit?
Let's just call it Exhibit 1.
Okay, Exhibit 1 from the clerk.
All right, so I've given the board a copy of his applications. You'll see our date stamp on that is October 10th, 2017. A copy, and the reason this matters, this is a request to accept applications as timely filed. So there's the copy of the applications, an envelope we have postmarked October 6th, and then a letter from Mr. Pugh, which we are considering his affidavit of timely filing, which I'll get into a moment. Emails I had with him, and then copies of his assessment notices for 2017, and a copy of the notice of today's hearing. So the subject application was received by the clerk of the board on October 10th, 2017, after the 2017 regular assessment period had closed. The deadline to file appeal for 2017 was September 15th, 2017. The applicant has confirmed by affidavit, that's the letter that was in here, that they timely mailed their assessment appeal application to the clerk of the board on September 1st, 2017, and that the application was mailed to the clerk of the board at 800 South Victoria Avenue, Ventura, California, 93009. The clerk of the board never received such application and has no application on file other than the subject application filed on October 10th. This validity hearing is scheduled so that the board may decide whether or not to accept the subject application as timely filed based on the reasons detailed in the applicant's affidavit and any other additional testimony the applicant might have for you today. Property Tax Rule 305 B5B states, if proof satisfactory to the board establishes that the mailing occurred on the last day of the filing period or within such period, any statement or affidavit may be made by the applicant asserting such a timely filing must be made within 1 year of the last day of the filing period. So if the board believes that the applicant mailed these on September 1st, as he states, then you can accept the application as timely filed. If you don't agree that he's established proof, you can deny them for not being filed within the applicable time period. I was in conversation with Mr. Pugh in late August, early September, discussing how he could file his applications. But as my records show, we never received anything until he contacted us in October. I believe he contacted just to confirm we had everything and everything was moving, at which time I informed him, no, we didn't have anything on file, and then he began this process of requesting that you accept them based on his affidavit that he timely filed them. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about our files, or you can possibly see if he has any additional testimony to state.
Okay. Mr. Pugh, do you have any information you'd like to present?
Yes, basically everything that Brendan said is accurate, except for some more details I would like to add.
Go ahead.
When I initiated the mailing out the two applications, that was September 1st, I'm a social worker by trade. So I made a detailed account in my calendar that it was mailed on this date, and then I put an alert on for a response to come up a month and 4 days later that clearly stated I should hear something from them at that point and know what's going on. On October 4th, the alert went off. I hadn't received anything. That's what triggered me to contact them and look into the matter, and then we moved forward from there. I do have documentations. Half of them are the same ones that were submitted here. I was unclear if they were going to be provided or not, so I just made copies myself. And then some other detailed information is here. But basically, I reached out, and when I reached out, I spoke with Monica. Monica informed me that Brendan would get back to me like he stated, and then he did communicate with me, and then we went through some emails, and I pursued further in submitting the applications, and it's the original ones. That's why it's dated September 1st.
Okay, if you'd like to pass that out, that would be great.
Whatever you have. Just give me everything and I'll hand it all out.
And this will be applicant's Exhibit A. Does that sound right? One. Okay, so it's applicant's Exhibit 1, and it was clerk's Exhibit 1. So
And
that's
as
fine.
I stated, a lot of them are duplicates of what Brendan provided. I was
Okay.
unsure if that was going to be provided or not.
Do you want to go through these with us, or would you like us just to look at it?
Basically, it just states the first bullet, September 1st, I mailed out the letters, and then I made an entry in my calendar, like I stated. Then Wednesday, October 4th, my phone alerted me. Then I reached out, I spoke with Monica. Then Monica said that I would hear from Brendan within 24 to 48 hours, which I did. He contacted me. And then we discussed it, and he said there was nothing, confirming what Monica had stated, there was nothing on file, they hadn't received anything. And I said, well, I have it. And the same day I turned around and faxed it to him and sent it certified mail. I might add, at his suggestion, I didn't state that here, but he said to make sure it gets to us. So I thank you for that, Brendan, as well. At the same time, the documents was faxed. I followed up because of the incident that has now occurred, being a social worker by trade, you revisit and follow up. So the second time around, I followed up and said, hey, Brendan, did you receive the fax? And Brendan stated, yes, we received the fax, but we're waiting for your mailed documents. We need those officials. So then, when he received them, he reached out and emailed some other communications, and that was an indirect confirmation that he received the mail. So that's basically it, and it all goes back to, I originally submitted it before the deadline of September 15th, which was September 1st. And for unbeknownst reason to me, I don't know why it was not received, but when he did request it, I was able to get it out and to him right away, faxed, email, and everything, because I already had it on file.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board for either the clerk or Mr. Pugh?
To the applicant, how did you mail the documents on September 1st? And do you have a record of that?
No, regular mail. That's why Brendan covered that as well. He asked, how did I mail it? I said I mailed it regular mail. It didn't specify return signature or certified mail in the application when I pulled it up online.
Do you have a screenshot of your calendar entry on your phone?
Yes, it is. It's provided in there through
yeah,
Google.
it's in the mail.
That is correct. There's one for September 1st when it was mailed, and then there's one for October 4th with the alert saying follow-up phone call, which I initiated that call.
I just have a question for the record. You put stamps on it or postage on it, correct? Because that's an element of the required showing.
Yes, I did all that above.
Okay.
Any other questions of either the clerk or the applicant? Any other information you'd like to present, Mr. Pugh?
No, that covers it.
Okay. So let's deliberate for a moment, unless Ms. Porsche, you have any
No more.
clarifications you'd like to give us?
Okay.
I think it'd be reasonable for us to grant the request based on the information provided. I'm sorry. Well, because it was a validity hearing, I thought that the assessor might not be a party, but I would be happy to hear any comments from the assessor.
Because it is a validity hearing, we're going to let the board decide and just go from there.
Okay.
My motion is to approve the applicant's request.
I would agree with that position, so I second that motion.
Okay, so we
Based
have,
on the evidence.
we have a motion to accept and seconded by Mr. Crow, moved by Mr. Curtis, and motion carries. So do we need to schedule?
No, right now it's like a
hearing?
brand new application because it just has now been accepted by the board, so I will schedule the evaluation hearing for a later date and renotice it. There's nothing, no further action required by the board today.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other further action required by me at this moment?
Yeah, if you can just come over here to the other side, I need you to sign these applications.
All right, great. Thank you, members of the board. Appreciate it.
Okay. And so with that, we're done with the run-through.
So in terms of approving findings of fact, Mr. Vlahakis, you want to wait until the end, or should we do that now?
Now's fine, just needs a motion to receive and file.
Okay, so
Item 39 will cover receiving and filing all findings of facts for this
Okay.
agenda.
So item 39 covers 40 and 41 for the receiving and filing of the findings. Are there any questions, comments from the board? My only comment is thank you, Ms. Porsche, for your work on the findings. I know it takes a lot of time and effort. So we're looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries.
One more? Is it one?
Hearing officers?
Oh, sorry, I was looking for your vote. I just marked it as
Oh, I'm
yes.
sorry.
Yes, and hearing officer, we need also a motion to receive and file.
Okay, so item 42 covers items 43 through
69.
69. Hearing officer decisions. Are there any questions, comments?
I'll abstain.
Okay, Mr. Curtis is abstaining as the hearing officer.
Motion to receive and file Mr. Curtis's hearing officer decisions.
Okay, and I will second the motion, moved by Mr. Crow. And motion carries. Thanks, Mr. Curtis, for your work as the hearing officer. Okay. Mr. Vlahakis, how would you like to proceed? Go on to stipulations?
Yeah,
or
you might as
come
well.
back to
That's the last
hearings?
administrative matter we have is stipulations.
Okay, so then we'll go next to stipulation agreements, item 70, which covers all of the stipulations that were previously submitted to the board via email. And are there any questions from the board, comments? If not, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I will second that motion.
Okay, moved by Ms. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries.
And one of our denials has appeared. Ms. Yokoyama, you want to come forward, please? This is, I think, item 26. Yes.
Okay, so we'll come back to item 26, application 17-10176, and the applicant is Musashi Simi, Inc. Good morning.
Sir, good morning.
Let me place you under oath, please. Raise your right arm. You solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matters now pending before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. Could you please state your name?
Loretta Yokoyama.
Okay, good morning, Ms. Yokoyama. Are you prepared to proceed with your application today?
No, sir, I cannot do it today. I would like to have a postponement.
Okay.
If possible.
Thank you. Any comments from the assessor?
As the applicant didn't send in a confirmation of appearance, the assessor wouldn't have been prepared with the applicant here. I believe a continuance is in order for her. In looking at the assigned appraiser, has all the data been provided? Okay. Apparently, we're still a little short on data, so any continuance date, we'd like a 30-day proviso on the data.
Okay, so I think we would, the board would be taking action on two items. Number one, reversing its prior decision to deny due to lack of appearance, and then, if so, scheduling the hearing date.
That's correct.
Any questions or comments so far from the board? Okay, and so in terms of a date, Mr. Vlahakis, do you have a proposed date?
I believe you said you don't really know where your information is, right? You had to go and try to find it? Okay, so you can give it to Efren today?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so do we want to do April 16th?
Yes, sir.
Assessor?
April 16th, okay with the assessor?
April 16th is fine.
Okay, so then we're looking at continuing to April 16th.
Thank you very much.
And
So the suggested motion to take would be to vacate the decision to deny due to lack of appearance and continue to April 16th, 2018, with the proviso that requested data be provided to the assessor within the next 30 days.
okay, and Ms. Yokoyama, are you able to provide the information they requested within 30 days?
Yes, I found it.
Okay, great. So looking for a motion to that effect.
So moved?
I will second it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis and seconded by Mr. Crow. So the hearing is scheduled for now for April 16th.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk of the Board, we have a couple of individuals who haven't come up to the mic. I don't know if they're just watching the proceedings or if, well, one of them just left, or if they were showing up late like the previous applicant. So
If there's anyone here
Just
who we
watching.
haven't discussed
Fantastic.
that has a case scheduled, please come forward at this time. Okay.
Okay.
We have 3 cases left. I don't know if you want to take a recess before
Yep.
we get started. Or?
I think we'll take a recess for 10 minutes and then come back and then we will hear.
Item
Do we
9.
have 3 or 4? I guess first would be item 9.
Oh, technically 4, yes. The last one is the clerks with no representatives present.
So we'll first hear item 9, which is Shine Trust, and that'll be in 10 minutes. Okay, we're back and we're hearing item 9 on the agenda, application 16-10088. Applicant is Shine Trust, and Mr. Shine is with us. And it looks like we have an application for a single-family home that is owner-occupied. And
it's a January 1st,
January 1st.
2016 request for decline in value.
okay, thank you.
And the applicant has indicated they are not requesting findings of fact. I have not heard from the assessor if they were requesting findings of fact or not.
Okay. And for a decline of value application, I believe the burden of proof is with the applicant. Am I correct?
the,
Waiting for 9.
first off, with the findings of fact, the assessor is not requesting findings. To the applicant, Mr. Shine, was this your primary residence?
Yes, it
Was? Okay. With that, the burden of proof rests with the assessor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do first is just hear a brief overview of the application of the property from the assessor, and then we'll go ahead with a hearing. And the way that we'll do that, Mr. Shines, we'll start with the assessor's presentation, and then you'll have a chance to ask questions, as will the board, and then the same process with you. And then
Thank
you'll
you.
both have closing summaries that you can make as well.
Thank you.
So actually, why don't we just go ahead and start with a quick summary and then go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is already labeled as Assessor's Exhibit A. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Rick Denham, Ventura County Assessor's Office. Property's located at 110 Encino Avenue in Camarillo. That's in the Las Posas area. It is obviously a single-family residence. We had as of January 1st, 2017, the Assessor's Office had the property at $1,134,000. That's actually a Prop 8 value. We had it below its base year value. The applicant at the time of filing thought his property was worth $1 million. Couple of things to note here that went along. The property subsequently sold in 2017, and I believe I know it was December, I might have the date wrong, I think it was around December 27th. The subject property sold for $1,550,000, okay? So that's important to note, and go from there. What I did was, standard presentation. I did use 4 comparable sales that show the subject property has a larger lot than most of the comps, and I did not adjust for larger lots, but I did have one rather smallish lot that I did adjust for. It was down about a third of the size. That's comp 4. My adjusted range basically is all above the price except for one, and it looks like it's at the bottom of the range. And in lieu of what it eventually sold for, it probably was a little bit at the bottom of the range.
Mr. Denham, sorry to interrupt you. Are you on your
I'm sorry.
fourth page?
I'm showing
Market evaluation?
all 3 comps. These are all Las Posas homes, and go from there. There's a map that shows where these homes are. There's a copy of a listing. At a certain point in time, the listing was a total of, as you see there, 266 days during 2017. And like I said, eventually closed escrow for, I believe, $1,550,000. So that's over $400,000 above our 1/1/17 assessment value, which would, just on the surface, of course, indicate that our value was at best low, but certainly, didn't need to be lower. During the course of the conversation, as I discovered that the property was for sale, I did ask a couple of questions of the taxpayer, and to be honest with you, how he was reconciling a reduction when he sold it almost more than $400,000 above what we had it in a roughly 12-month period. He mentioned the condition of the property was not as good January 1st as it was when he closed. I then went to the city of Camarillo and asked them for permits, and had there been a lot of work done. And there was some work done. Some of that work was subsequently, through evidence provided to us by the city of Camarillo, was completed. A large portion was completed prior to January 1st, and the subsequent portions were completed sort of right after that time, so they were substantially completed on January 1st. So overall, I don't think the condition of the property would have been that much difference between January 1st and when it sold. To be honest with you, I don't know that the original person that did this was aware of the condition of the property January 1st. When I came, that sort of relaxed me more, and I, if anything, I feel our values, certainly at the bottom of the range at best, in lieu of the fact that the property did sell. And then there's subsequent pictures of the subject property. In lieu of the comparable sales, in lieu of the actual sales price of the property, it is the assessor's office position that you should sustain our $1,134,000 value. And just to remind you, it did close escrow in December of 2017 for $1,550,000. Thank you.
Okay, so I assume there's no other information from the assessor before we move forward?
Not at this time.
Okay.
We do have additional information that may come up, basically as rebuttal evidence.
Okay. So we'll now go to Mr. Shine. You are welcome to ask questions based on the information that was presented. And just keep in mind that it would be separate issue if you have like statements to make, so this is just time to ask questions.
You need a statement that, excuse me, so sorry, that there was conversations after the sale date? Can you please tell me when, if any, conversations we had after the sale date? Or did I misunderstand you?
You may have misunderstood me. I said during the course of the assessment.
Okay. During the course of the assessment, did I invite you out to the property?
I do not recall that you did.
Okay. Just for purposes of statement, I invited you out to the property, and you declined. Besides that, anything else I'd be adding would be new evidence, and I understand that this isn't the time for it, and so those are my questions for you.
Okay. And if you have something, you're welcome to,
Add
what you
now?
think of, that
Okay.
we can come back to it.
Okay. Is now a good time to add my?
What we'll do now is have the board ask questions, and then
Okay.
we'll go to your presentation.
Thank you.
Sure. Any questions from the board to the assessor?
The only question I have is, looking at the listing for the property, they're showing 4,882 square feet and 4,596, and we're showing 3,882. I don't know if that's relevant or means anything or not.
We're going off of our information. If there
Yeah.
were, I don't know if the listing also included any ancillary buildings.
Okay.
Mr. Crowe, any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay. I had one quick question. Mr. Denham, I saw your presentation. I'm a little concerned about the amount of weight that seems to be placed on the sale of the property almost 12 months after the appraisal date. And I know it's not included as a comp in your comparable sales analysis, but it seems like you're using it as a comp in your comparable sales analysis to me.
I would answer that two ways. I could have used it as a comp because anything to do with the subject property is relevant. And if you do it, yes, I included it, and it's not on purpose. It's part of the information that's out there. Let me get this out for a second.
So maybe that's a good clarification for me. So the 90-day rule for a comparable sale does not apply to the subject property?
No, the subject property is, I'll let the clerk of the board answer that. I'm sorry.
No, as I say, that's correct. We get this question quite frequently, either because people don't want their sales price considered or they want it considered because it's very low. The rule, I don't have it exactly offhand, but yes, the sale of the subject property is excluded from the 90-day rule.
Okay.
It can be considered by the board.
I think that answers my question.
Well, I mean, up 36% in 12 months is very relevant to, unless you believe that the market moved 36%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board to the assessor? Okay. Then we'll go ahead, Mr. Schein, with your presentation.
Thank you. I've given you several sets of color sheets and then a Excel spreadsheet which shows my property. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, it shows 2 or 3 properties that the assessor used in terms of evaluating the value of my property. And then in between, there are a bunch of other properties that sold in the neighborhood during that period of time. The condition of the property on January 1st, 2016 is evidenced by the pictures that are attached to the top packet that is stapled together, and they're labeled at the bottom 1110 Encino Avenue. I put the sheet on about the wasted land because when I was speaking with the assessor's office, that was a big issue they kept raising. But the land is really wasted. Very little of it is usable, and when you compare the condition of the property's land to the other properties, it's not the same. The house was built in 1984, and it wasn't updated until the end of 2015 and 2016, and the work wasn't completed until 2016, and the house was put up for sale. All the other property, and if you flip through, the pictures are pretty clear. You can look at the different things and everything else. The appraiser took the pictures off of the internet from the listing of the property at the end of 2016, and that's an accurate representation. We ended up putting about we'd actually had the house for sale for $1 million several years ago, and I think it might have been $1,099,000, and we got no offers. I mean, the amount of work to be done on it, if it was going to be done by someone who's coming in, would have been several $100,000. And the pictures that follow it show 130 Crestview, which is one of the appraisals they used, which came in at $323 a foot. And they're very similar in terms of the condition to our house when we sold it. But there's absolutely no relevant condition between it and the condition of our house on December 31st or January 1st of 2016. So the picture packets are just to show that, yes, these were gorgeous houses. The last one is one that they didn't use, which, if you look at the house itself, it's very, very, very similar to the condition our house was in. It's 477 Deceno. And I mean, all the kitchens, all the bathrooms, the two most important rooms in a house are the master bathroom and the kitchen. In our house on January 1st of 2016 was nothing even close to the comps that they were using. We also had a 3-car garage with an unfinished room above it, which that room was finished during this renovation, which is what makes up the difference between the 3,800 square feet of on the tax rolls and the 4,600 or 800 or whatever else is in the listings. So if you take 1,000 square feet round numbers and you toss in $300 a square foot, that by itself makes up a big difference in the sales price. I did invite, and I'm sorry, the
Mr.
gentleman
Denham.
who to come out to the house and look at the condition of the house on several different occasions. I believe that if I go back to my emails, I'll probably find an email to that effect, because it wasn't just a verbal communication. And had he come out, he would have seen that the house had good legs, but it just needed hundreds of thousands of dollars of work done to it to bring it up to the marketplace, and it did. And we made a little bit of money on it, and we sold it. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Shine, do you have any additional info to present?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll go to questions from the assessor to the applicant.
Mr. Shine, how much approximately did you spend on the new construction?
It came out to about $225,000. We'd actually had a conversation with your office 2 years before that, in which there was an adjustment to the sales price of the house, and we had gotten quotes, which we provided for what those repair was. What we did this time went far and beyond that. I mean, you're looking at call it 4,000 square foot house, $50 a square foot, including all new Viking appliances and everything else. It was expensive.
Okay. Mr. Clerk of the Board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you.
The document that we just passed out are the permits that were finalized regarding construction. The kitchen remodel, according to this, was finalized in December of 2014. The master bath remodel was finalized November of 2015. Gas line for a barbecue, also November 2015. So from our information with regards to the construction, most of it, if not all of it, was complete by the valuation date of 1/1/2016.
These are just the mechanicals. These don't include cabinets, these don't include countertops or anything else. And we actually stopped and started construction because we ran out of money, and we ended up taking in a general contractor as a partner to finish things up. But these were just the mechanicals. So you're looking at, a piece of plumbing being moved, electrical being moved, but it wasn't all the cosmetic stuff, which we came in and did later, all the granite countertops, all the cabinets, and everything else. So, these dates are not inaccurate, but the house wasn't done. If the house was done, I would have put it up for sale. I've had some serious health issues, which I've communicated with the clerk before, and the whole reason for doing this was to sell the house because I can't take care of it. So this is in no way representative of when the house was finished, and had the representative come out to do the inspection, he would have seen that, yeah, we tore up floors, we lived with the house in a complete state of disarray. We lived in one bedroom because we had no kitchen, because all the mechanical stuff had been filed. But if you don't do those things within 6 months, then the permits, from what I understand, become invalid. And, we lived in one bedroom, we had a microwave oven, a 2-burner electric countertop where you can plug it in for 110 degrees, and a refrigerator, and we literally camped out in that house for the better part of 9 months while we were trying to get this done. It wasn't done. The house just wasn't finished. The cosmetics weren't done. The appliances weren't in. That's it. This all would have been mute had he come out and taken a look. Can I take a minute, take a look at my phone and see if I can call up the email where I might have been able to find that I invited him? I mean, I'm not sure I can find it, but
Okay with me.
there is an email.
Ms. Porsche, you have an opinion on that?
The chair, it's the chair's call. The chair can make decisions on the introduction of evidence, and if the chair wants to grant a 2-minute recess for him to find his email, the chair can do so. If the chair doesn't want to, it's the chair's call.
Okay. And any comments from the board?
Let's give him 2 minutes.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it.
We might have to forward it and print it, I think.
If we can get 5, we're going to have Mr. Denham go search his emails as well.
Okay.
So 5-minute recess?
So we'll be in recess for 5 minutes. We'll move forward then.
Yeah, we'll just continue.
Okay. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Vlahakis.
Okay. The property sold for $1.55 in October of 2017, and you said you put approximately $250,000 into it?
About 200,000.
Okay.
I don't have the exact number.
If you even round that up to $300,000 and back that off the sales price, you're at 1.25. And the valuation you're disputing is 1.134 by the assessor, and you say that the property was worth at the lien date $1 million.
That's correct. There's also not 1,000 square feet. There's cheap stuff that you do to a house. You finish off a room over a garage. There's expensive stuff you do to a house, which is a kitchen and a bathroom. But the house gets assessed based on how many square feet it has. And it was sold at 4,800 square feet, not 3,800 square feet. So that alone, even assigning a low price to that portion at $200 a square foot, plus the $250, took us up to the sales price of the house.
No further questions by the assessor.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to questions from the board to the applicant, please.
How did you arrive at your value?
I used, pardon me, I used a bunch of other houses that had sold in the area that had not been updated, and those are listed as addresses. The one that's the most telling is 90 Encino Avenue. It's the fourth one down. It's 3,500 square feet, 50,000 square foot lot, and it sold for $1,030,000. That house belonged to Rick Miller, who was my accountant, and you know, his house was nicer than my house. We go down to DeSeo Avenue, which I have pictures of. I don't have pictures of Encino Avenue. That was $250 a square foot. So if we look at the size of the house at the time of the assessment, which was January 1st of 2016, and we even use $275 a square foot or $270 a square foot, that's the number I came up with. And I added $20 a square foot or a little bit more to offset the fact that there's a slightly larger lot size or anything else. But at January 1st of 2016, the house was a 25, 30-year-old home in desperately needed upgrading. I'm under oath. I absolutely, positively, unequivocally, whether it was verbally or in an email, invited Mr. Denham out to the house when we were discussing this stuff to look at it, and I'd invited him out in prior years when I'd filed my appeal as well. So we've added 1,000 square feet to the house, and we did a complete cosmetic update after we did the mechanicals on the rest of the house.
Did you use a general contractor or did?
Yeah, no, I actually brought a general contractor in because I couldn't afford to do the work. It's been a rough few years for me for a number of different reasons, none of which are relevant to this case. And the general contractor did a bunch of the work, and then he took a piece of the pie when I sold the house.
Mr. Curtis?
Yeah, let's see. So you said you had listed the property previously?
Correct.
For how much?
It was either $1,099,000 or $1 million, and we had no offers.
When did you do that?
2013, 2012. I'm pretty sure it was 2012. I don't remember exactly.
Did you happen to bring that listing sheet with you today?
No.
So you're saying that the full remodel was about $200,000?
Correct.
Was that?
Not including the general contractor's piece in terms of the time and labor he put in, but what he took out of it, and that was about $50,000. Because he worked and didn't get paid, and then he took more than he would have gotten per hour out of the house when it closed, because he essentially became a handshake partner on the sale.
The $200,000, did that include the labor from the contractor, or no?
No, it included mostly materials. There was $70,000 worth of Viking appliances that went in. There was a ton of granite that went in. There were new cabinets that went in. If you look at the pictures that the assessor's office has provided of the master bathroom, there was all tile, all granite. There was a top-of-the-line Kohler jacuzzi tub that was put in. All that stuff was all the finish work that was done.
When did you finally get the final sign-off on everything? What was the date?
The only thing that the I'm sorry, because I'm under a little bit of medication, which is why I'm stumbling. The only thing that was required for permits were the mechanicals, the electrical, the plumbing, where they had to come in, a new gas line was put in, it had to be put under test. Everything else was cosmetic, which didn't require to have permits for, because it was just countertops going in and all that other sort of stuff. We demoed the walls, we'd moved the electrical, all that stuff, which is the relatively inexpensive part.
When were all the finishes complete?
The first quarter of 2016.
As far as the garage, you said that you added square footage above the garage. How large is the garage? How many car garage is it?
It's a 3-car garage. It's not in a standard 3-car configuration. It's 2 cars side by side and then a 3rd car that enters from the end. So instead of having a long, thin room, you have a nice, wide room.
You have 2 tandem?
2 side by side as you drive in directly as if you're coming from the street. So if you look at the pictures that were provided by the assessor's office, you'll see that one garage door in the front as it rolls up. Around to the side of that, the garage is as deep as the entire house. So where a garage is normally 20 or 25 feet deep, the garage is 35, 40 feet deep. I don't know exactly. But then there was a side garage door that allowed you to access the 3rd parking spot in the garage from the side.
So a 3-car garage is 600 square feet. So did you?
It's an oversized garage. That's why, because the information is in theirs, and I'm not as prepared, but I mean, the assessor's rolls are 3882, I think they were. And the square footage is done by the appraisal when the house was bought and by
So you permitted 847 square feet?
Correct. Well, that's what the square footage is. I'm standing corrected on the square footage.
And you permitted above the garage as living space or recreation room or?
Recreation room. It was a recreation room.
And so you got it permitted with the county?
It's not with the county, it's with the city. And because all the electrical was already in, but there was no drywall, what's the other stuff, insulation and that sort of stuff, we put all that in.
So what was there before? Just
empty space.
Storage space or?
Just empty space. I mean, when you walked in, it was just empty space.
So you permitted it with the city of Camarillo as a rec room?
Yeah, apparently we went to them, we said since the electrical was already in, we didn't have to pull permits, but that we just had to finish it. Since it was already in there, we had to finish the room.
Is the garage like detached from the house or it's attached?
No, on the upstairs, when you go down the hall, let me see if it's in their pictures. No, it's not in their pictures, but the room was on the listing site. It was really strange when the house was built and you walked down the hallway from the room that like you would go off to the bedrooms at. There was a door at the end of the hallway, and the door at the end of the hallway ended up in an unfinished room.
Sure.
So.
Okay. When exactly was the last time that you invited Mr. Denham to inspect the property?
I don't remember, but it was during the course of the process when he was asking about different things on the house. I absolutely unequivocally invited him out to the property. Swear on the lives of my children. I'm not lying. I don't have any proof to that effect on my phone, but I mean, I absolutely positively unequivocally invited him out to the property.
Sure, and to the assessor, I mean, typically you don't go out to residential inspections, or you do, or what's the?
It depends on the dynamic of the property. This had been ongoing, and there had been discussions about the about the improvements and the condition in the state at the time of the valuation. Mr. Denham was not able to find any emails that had, but that doesn't mean there wasn't verbal conversation where an invite may have been made and Mr. Shine may have called back and said, listen, because in here it talks about his health, and you may have said, listen, this day doesn't work for me. So I'm not saying that he needs to swear on the lives of his family members. Something may have happened that we didn't get the site inspection at that time.
If I can respond, let's just assume that's correct, and there was an appointment sent, which I have no recollection of, but you don't go saying, hey, come look at the trash in my backyard if there's no trash in your backyard. The house just was a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for an upgrade and an improvement, and I would have loved to have been able to keep the home, but I can't. It was in desperate need of updating and upgrading, and he was invited to come look.
Okay, we got that. We understand. We don't need to go any more about, got it.
Any other questions, Mr. Curtis?
I think I'm done, thanks.
Okay. A few quick questions for the applicant. Mr. Shine, the photos that you gave us of your home?
Yes.
When were they taken?
That one is taken off of Google.
Uh-huh. I think I'm referring more to the interior photos.
2015, somewhere thereabouts.
Okay.
They weren't taken in 2016 or even late 2015, because by then, all that stuff was being demoed out of there.
Okay, so you're saying on the lien date, it was representative of this level of finish or
Yes.
worse?
Yes.
Meaning torn out? Is that
Yep.
what you're saying? Okay. We talked about the work, the upgrades that were not required to be permitted, applications. Is it, are you saying in terms of the improvements that were made that the cost of the improvements, the increase in value of the home could have been greater than the cost of the improvements?
Oh, absolutely. That was the intent.
Right. Okay. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Any other questions from the board? Okay. So we'll go next to, let's see, we had questions from the assessor, from the board. We'll go next to closing summaries. We'll start with the applicant and finish with the assessor. So if you just like to summarize.
I've already probably wasted too much of the board's time.
Okay.
That's it.
And
closing summary from the assessor?
The assessor provided the comparables, worked up adjustments. It's not based on $1 per square foot. We followed the proper rules of valuation. The sticking point seems to be the improvements and when they were finished, and also the cost of. And even in a debilitated state, backing off what would have been the cost of the actual upgrades, the foreman's cut, and any market adjustment, we believe that the 1.134 is still reflective of the value as of lien date.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions, comments from the board before we move to deliberations? Okay, so we don't have findings of fact requested, I believe, and in terms of deliberations, we can do that now, or we can go through our hearings and deliberate later in closed session. I could go either way. We could probably deliberate now unless there's any information that you all would like to.
I'd like to do closed
Look
session.
later.
I want to look at some of the data a little bit a little
Okay.
bit more.
Okay, so then that's what we'll do. We'll close the hearing to public testimony, and so the board will be deliberating, I'm sure, later this afternoon, and I assume we will come up with a decision unless there's more information that we need to get. So, Mr. Shine, you can call in and get information from our clerk, or there will be a minute order sent out within probably a day or two in terms of the decision. So thank you all for your information and testimony.
Thank you.
Okay. As soon as I find my agenda, which is right here.
For the help with the light.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go next to item 18, application 16-11468, Richard Zeiler.
So give me a call tomorrow or after, and I'll have the decision for you. Is it your 16 days? Have a seat.
Thank you. Okay, looks like we were looking at a possessory interest valuation related to a airplane hangar leased, and why don't we start with just a brief overview of the information from the assessor, and then we'll proceed from there.
Mr. Chair, before
Yes.
we begin, can we please confirm whether or not findings of fact are requested at Pierce?
Yes.
So from the application, is that still currently the case?
The applicant has indicated they are not requesting findings of fact any longer. They have not submitted payment for findings of fact. The assessor has not indicated whether or not they are requesting findings of fact.
The assessor is not requesting findings of fact.
Okay, let's move forward then with an overview from the assessor, and then we'll proceed in terms of the order of presentations.
There it is. I'm Deputy Assessor John Opferman. And the property is an executive hangar located at Oxnard Airport. It is 3,000 square feet. Built in 1964. And just to give the board a little definition of what an executive hangar is, it is the highest level of hangar at the airport with the most amenities. It's located very close to the runway. And this particular one has electricity and a restroom with a shower. And that's in contrast to the non-executive hangars that don't have utilities and don't have restrooms. I think when we present our case, you'll have a better idea of what this hangar looks like, as we have numerous pictures and descriptions and listings from the internet when this property was available for sale.
Okay, and Mr. Opperman, is it what's the assessor's position on burden of proof?
Okay. The subject property, in fact, did sell for $105,000. However, there is a technicality regarding the burden of proof, and that is that this is a possessory interest, and therefore the burden of proof, in our opinion, shifts to the applicant. In addition, the applicant provided us with a letter indicating that there was a pressure to sell this property. And I shall read this segment from the letter. So the applicant wrote, "At that point in time, the owner was pressed by circumstances in his sphere of influence to sell some of the many hangars he built and then owned." So it is our opinion that this pressure created an exigency that disqualifies the sales price. So the two together, we believe, shifts the burden to the applicant.
Okay, and Any comments from the applicant in terms of burden of proof before we move forward? Okay, and Ms. Porsche, any comments related to that?
Does the applicant disagree with the representation made by the assessor that the applicant presented a letter that laid factual basis for there being exigencies for the sale from the applicant's perspective?
No, I'll expand a little bit on that, but basically.
Okay.
Okay.
So then we'll proceed in that way. We'll start with the applicant's presentation. Same process, ask questions, the board and the assessor, and then the reverse. And then with closing summaries, we'll end with the applicant as well. So whenever you're ready, you can give us any information you have.
Okay, this is pretty straightforward. At your tab.
Okay.
Tab A is a map of the west end of.
Let's just wait 1 second until everyone gets it, and we'll call this applicant's Exhibit 1. Go ahead.
Tab A is a map of the hangar on the west end of Oxnard. It's a 21 hangar complex, and I believe it was built later than what the appraiser had suggested. Anyway, there was a 30-year contract with the County of Ventura, and at the end of that contract, the County of Ventura picks up all those hangars without compensation to the owners. Tab B, you'll find the escrow that you referred to with the grant deed, tax bill that was sent me that assesses it at I guess $210,000, which is a tax bill of $2,544. Tab D shows the excerpt from the hangar association where the hangars are delivered back to the county at the end of the 30 years. The homeowners association, which are all 21 owners of the hangars, pay the county $61,000 a year. I guess it's for the land lease. Anyway, that averages out to $2,912 per owner per year that's being paid to the county. In addition to that, I purchased the hangar, and 42% of the value of the hangar was gone because of the 30-year contract, and at the end of 30 years, I donate the hangar to the county. At tab F, you'll see a spreadsheet that kind of breaks that out based on what I paid, and you'll see that it's costed me about $10,217 to own that hangar because of the decreasing value of the property. That's using the evaluation of the hangar being worth $105,000. The second phase there is if the county insists that its value is $210,000, then I'm paying into the county $18,496 a year to own that hangar. It's crazy the cost that it's costing, and I'm paying the county. If you are an airplane owner, hangar space lease will cost you $350 to $600 a month. Take that out over a few years, and it doesn't even begin to come close, which makes the owner of the hangar is a really bad investment. At tab G is a discussion of some of the points. When I purchased the hangar, there were items wrong with it. The grading, when it was originally put in, the drainage is not correct, and when it rains heavily, the water backs up and infiltrates the hangar, and there isn't anything that you can do about the grading. There's a fire system in the hangars, of course, and the fire system has been leaking, and it rusts the structural integrity of the roof, and which is 24 feet high, and unless you get a scissor lift or something, you can't get up there to fix it. Plus, that's the responsibility of the homeowners association, and that hasn't been repaired or anything, and that was a condition when I bought it. Basically, my argument is that the hangar is escrowed at $105,000, and I'm sure that the assessor's office is going to come back and say, well, look at all these other hangars, these guys that paid more. The owner that sold it to me was one of the original owners who built them. He had about 6 hangars. He was approaching 80 years of age. He needed to divest. I was like the first guy that I had talked to him. Did I get a good price? Yeah, I got a very good price. Subsequently, I think he's probably divested of all of the hangars except one where he keeps an aircraft, and that's the situation.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go to questions from the assessor to the applicant.
Good morning, sir. How did you arrive at the $105,000 sales price?
I evaluated what it would cost to hangar an aircraft. I had leased aircraft space before, and that was the price I was willing to pay.
Okay. And the property was listed for $225, is that correct?
When I bought the hangar, the price, I don't think the property was listed.
Okay. When you mentioned the deficiencies regarding the leak and whatever, you said that's taken care of by the homeowners association?
Yes.
Or supposed to be?
Yeah, if there's a roof, it's kind of like a homeowners association, and exterior pretty much supposed to be taken care of by the homeowners association, or was supposed to be in proper condition when it was built, and internal items, not including the sprinkler system, would be my responsibility. The bathroom, the door, the lifting devices, the lights, and that sort of thing.
With regard to the lease, it's set up to expire in 2033, but there is a 10-year option?
There is a 10-year option, yes.
Okay. There's a 10-year option for the county to exercise. Are you impeded from selling the property at full market value between now and the time the lease expires?
Impeded?
Yeah. Are you allowed to put the property on the market and sell it for whatever market will bear?
Of course.
Okay. You stated this was a bad investment?
If anybody came to me and said, would you buy a hangar on the west end of Oxnard and pay $210,000, I would advise him, don't do that. Go lease at $350 a month. You'll be tons ahead. Invest in something else.
Okay. And you mentioned the assessor was probably going to throw out some comparable sales. Did you bring any with you?
No.
Okay. I don't think we have any question or any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board to the applicant?
I have one.
Yes, Ms. Porsche?
If your experience is the hangars can lease from between $300 to $600 a month, does the renter in those sorts of leases have an obligation to pay any property taxes, or is it just straight rent that they pay?
No, obviously, if they own the property, they have to pay property tax. But the leasee doesn't pay any, he just pays a flat fee.
Okay.
There would be no other fees? I'm sorry, there'd be no other There would be no other fees?
No other fee associated with the rental of that property. I mean, you'd be required to carry liability insurance and so forth, but that's on the leasee.
Would you have paid $150,000 for this?
No.
How about 120?
Yeah, you can banter back and forth and get to a number. Yeah, I'd have paid 120.
Okay. Just curious.
Are you possibly making an offer
No.
to take it off his hands for 120?
No, no.
Okay,
I wish I had it.
just trying to figure out where we were going.
No.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board to the applicant? Okay, we'll go ahead then with the assessor's presentation.
Exhibit A.
Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Just a moment, please.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like to give more of a narrative to start rather than, I think we can all read, so I don't need to read right off the page. When I was assigned this case, I noticed that we were assessed at $210,000 and that there was a purchase price at $105,000. So immediately my curiosity was raised. And so I went through the file, I looked, and I saw email and a letter from Mr. Zeiler just explaining that there seemed to be some sort of pressure on the seller to sell. So I did ask him about that, and I don't think I got any kind of clear answer. So I then began to gather sales of executive hangars from the beginning, or as far back as our records could go, and found that nothing had been sold for less than $200,000. And in fact, I looked at listings as well, and there is currently one that is listed for $300,000. And in my research, I found that the subject property had been listed for $225,000 in August. The sale occurred in October. So unless the date on the listing is wrong, I think it was clearly listed at $225,000 and then subsequently sold at $105,000. So this, as an appraiser, it just did not make sense. And since I didn't receive any kind of explanation, other than that there was a little bit of deferred maintenance, the difference was just too much between the other sales, the listing, and what it actually sold for. So I thought, okay, well, maybe there was some serious damage to this hangar. I asked Mr. Zeiler to list out the cost of repairs, and he explained that he did the repairs but didn't provide any costs, and they appeared to be fairly minor, maybe somewhere around, I estimate, about $10,000. So I did deduct that in my analysis that you will see. So that's where I was coming from, and an overview of how I approached this problem. I'd like to direct you to page 2, because I think the pictures can explain a lot and avoid a lot of conversation. The picture on the right is an aerial of the entire airport, and then highlighted are the executive hangars that have excellent runway access. There are 3 buildings with 7 executive hangars in each one. So I'd imagine, now I didn't really talk to the manager of the airport about drainage problems. I just asked him to tell me if he thought there were any issues with these hangars, and if there was any issue with this particular hangar as to why it sold so much lower than all the other hangars. And he gave me no explanation. In fact, the manager of the airport just said he didn't see any indication as to why this particular hangar would sell much lower than the other ones. Then on the left is a blow-up of these pictures. So they're very cookie cutter, and we talk about houses, we call them model matches. They're virtually identical in almost all ways. On page 3 is the outside. They're just large metal buildings with high ceilings. And here's a picture of the inside. And these photos are from the sales listing that I found on 2 internet websites. Page 4 is more interior, and the bottom picture shows how the bifold doors operate and what it looks like if you're standing inside the hangar looking out, just so that we get a better idea. I do want to add that I wasn't able to go inside the hangar just because our schedules did not match up, and I don't think that's really a major issue, and that these hangars are fairly self-explanatory by the photographs. Page 5 and following are other hangars that I personally looked at when I went on tour of the airport. Page 6, same thing. These are the executive ones. The blue door is an executive hangar. Page 7 are pictures of 2 other comparable sales that are not executive hangars. I would consider these to be a lower quality class, and that they don't have utilities, they don't have restrooms, and these are on, in my opinion, less desirable area of the airport. Let's see. So let's go back. Let's go back to page 1. And see if there's anything. Okay, I think there's nothing really pressing here that I haven't already discussed. So I can go right into the comparable sales grid, which is found on page 9. It's just your typical sales grid. Now, what is the sales that are most similar are sales 1, 2, and 5. These are the executive hangars selling from $200 to $229.5 thousand. The sales prices range from $67 to $77, and these are the 3 sales that are allowed under the property tax rules that are before the 90-day deadline. And then sales 3 and 4 are the lower quality hangars that don't have the utilities, and they are much smaller. Down below are the adjustment grids for all of the sales. Because these are all cookie cutter and model matches, for the executive sales, that'd be 1, 2, and 5. The only adjustment I gave was a negative 5% to account for an estimate of the repairs that Mr. Zeilert had mentioned, but didn't provide a higher cost. Whatever he would have provided, we would have been happy to make that adjustment for. And the other sales are included just to show that there seems to be a fairly tight market that in hangars at this airport. The sales range from $67 to $77 per square foot, and that the other hangars that aren't exactly like the executives also fall within that range. And as I said, every sale that has ever occurred at this airport has fallen within this range of both executive and non-executive. So I think we're still not clear as to why this particular hangar sold for what appears to be a half of the price of every other sale and every other listing that has occurred at this airport. Let's see, I think we'll just make this real quick. Page 10 is one website where the subject property was listed for sale, $75 a square foot. And then why would it just sell for $35 a square foot? If there's a valid reason, I'd love to know that, and we would have considered it in our appraisal. As you see, this particular listing was dated in the highlighted area under the word subject at July 29th, 2015, again sold in October of 2015. And the next listing on page 11 was posted August 5th, 2015, and course, the sale date was October 2015. The following pages are just additional information, if you'd like more detail in what both of us have talked about already. Mr. Zeiler's partial explanation as to what was happening and his how his escrow went, and then just our subsequent email where I just asked for more explanation, but didn't really get anything other than what we heard today. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to any questions from the applicant to the assessor.
The only question I have are these two that, page 10 and 11, this same hangar, because I wasn't aware that this hangar was advertised for sale.
Yes, it is the one that you currently own. If you can, it's really hard to see, but near the bottom of the page, there's a box that says no image, and then it says hangar ID.
Which page are you looking at?
I'm sorry, page 10.
Thank you.
Near the bottom.
Hangar ID number 17?
Yes, correct. And then the next one.
Versus hangar number 10, which is
number
mine.
10. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. No, wait. One other. That's other properties. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong place. Let's see, number. That is. I am looking for the number 17. Okay. I don't see it right here. But we can go to page 11. And it is listed as hangar number 10 on the highlighted area under the word Oxnard.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll go.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. We'll go to questions from the board to the assessor.
Is the lease terms on the on your sale comps, are they the same as the lease term for the subject?
Yes, it is a master lease, so all the terms are the same for all the individual hangar owners.
Mr. Curtis, any
And I
questions?
might add, the listings also clearly lay out what those terms are, so everyone who buys a hangar knows full well what they're getting into.
But you had mentioned a 10-year extension with the county?
Yes.
Does that apply to everyone also?
Yes. Everyone who is part of the lease, that extension applies. So it's, the end is 2033 with the possibility of it going to 2043.
So what's happening in 2033?
I don't have a crystal ball. Please.
Is that just what it?
They did on a 30-year lease with a 10-year option.
Mm-hmm.
So around 2033, they'll decide whether or not to move forward with the extension.
So I'm just going to jump in on your question for a second. Are you saying that the lessor has the option to extend and not the lessee, or the lessee has the option to extend?
The lessor, the county,
Right?
yes, has the option to extend another 10 years.
So it's possible that the lessee, the lessee, so they do not have control over when it ends. So the value, if I'm a buyer, would have to be based on
2013.
2033, not the later date, since there's no control that the buyer has
There
over
is,
that?
correct, there is no control.
Okay.
And I've got, once everybody's done, I have another exhibit to go through.
However, the The listing does clearly state that there's 27 to 28 years remaining on the subject lease.
How many?
27 to 28, and that's on page 11.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct for the subject and the executive hangars.
I thought we heard
I thought there were 17.
I thought we heard the applicant say that it was 17 years, not 27.
That's probably including the option.
Okay.
So again, if I was to buy it, could I get the option when I bought it today?
Would you get the option?
Could I get the option?
No. I mean, could you just say, hey, listen, I'll buy this and I want to...
Contingent on it being till 2043?
No. It's contingent upon going until 2033, and then you have to decide whether or not to dispose of the asset before 2033 if the county isn't giving you any inclination of whether or not they're going to renew.
So the years on the lease are actually 17, correct?
From the time he purchased in 2016, yes.
So why would it say 27 on the listing?
Because they're taking the 17
and adding 10, I
and
understand.
adding the 10.
But it doesn't, from what you're telling me, I couldn't get the 10-year extension if I was to buy it today.
Correct. It's at the county's discretion in closer to 2033.
This makes a big difference, right? Because if the county is gonna stop the lease on 2033, it's not as valuable as if it was to 2100.
Right, but the buyers are fully aware of that, and it trades in the market based upon whatever that lease is.
But the other thing is, we have no evidence provided today that the county is going to stop at 2033.
Sure.
Mr. Horn, did you say you have more information
I
to
have
submit?
one other,
Okay.
and it addresses some of this.
Thank you.
No. He put it in his. This goes to the argument by the applicant that the county gets a windfall in 2033. The lease does run until 2033, and as stated previously, it has a 10-year option. The term of the lease is disclosed at the time of purchase. And historically, and I didn't put any addresses on here, but I just put these are the most recent sales of these properties or these executive hangars. And at no point did they ever transfer for less than $200,000. Oxnard Airport has had issues. They lost American Eagle in '96, United Express in 2010, providing commercial services, but they're still looking for others. Having this active flight traffic goes to support that this is still a viable airport, not only for commercial companies, but also the federal regulators who hand out aid. He has the fee simple rights to sell this at any time prior to the termination of the lease, whether it's 2033 or 2043, to get whatever market will bear. And that's what we're appraising. He knew prior to closing what the terms were. He knew prior to closing about the reversion. And at the end of the day, the applicant agreed to these terms. And in looking at comparables, recent comparables in historical data, the assessor valued this at $210,000.
Okay, since there's new evidence submitted, we'll ask if the applicant has any additional questions.
Oh, anybody on the board want to buy a hanger?
Okay, and anyone, any of the board members, any additional questions? Okay, so then we'll move to closing summaries. We'll start with the assessor and finish with the applicant.
Thank you, sir, for coming out and participating. We showed that there were exigencies, I can never get that word, with regards to the sale. We used comparable data and submitted it to the board. We also made the argument that any reversion and the terms of the lease were known prior to. There were no surprises. And most of all, he could put it on the market tomorrow and get whatever market would bear. I commend him for getting $105,000. You did well. But at the end of the day, the assessor has to put full market value on it, and we ask the board to sustain our value. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Zeiler, any closing
Yes,
thoughts?
sir. The only thing I would say is that he's correct that all the information is there. You probably don't find out most of this until after close of escrow. The county is reaping $61,000 a year off of the ground lease, which is costing each individual $2,912, which is more than the real estate tax on the property, which is $2,544 a year. So that wasn't taken into account in any of the assessment and probably should be. I think that all of the people that are being assessed at, whether it's 210, 225, or whatever, are all being overassessed by the county, and the county is coming out a winner by thousands of percent at the expense of the citizen who is paying all these fees to the county, when if you go to a residential property, the land and the improvements are all one item and assessed together. In this case, that's not the case, and the owners wind up paying way more in taxes to the county than what it really should be assessed at, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the hearing to public testimony, and I would recommend that we deliberate again in closed session at the end of our hearings today so that we can keep going and hear all of the cases unless there are any objections. Okay, so we'll deliberate today. You can call in and check with the clerk, or a minute order will be sent out with a decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the assessor's representatives. Unless there are any objections, we might push forward and hear this last application.
Yeah.
Or if anyone would like to take a break for a few minutes, we can do that too. Okay, then we'll just keep going. To item number 27, thank you. Application 17-10198. Applicant Lonnie Hansen.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your patience today, Mr. Hansen. And the subject property is a single-family home not occupied by the applicant, as far as I can tell from the application. And this is I think, a Prop 8 reduction in value application. Is that right, Mr. Vlahakis?
Based on our records, we suggested that the applicant mark a decline in value, and they did not want to do that. So you might need to request some clarification from the applicant as to what they wish you to address today.
Okay, so why don't we start by doing that. Mr. Hanson, give us a description of what you'd like to achieve, and then we'll make sure the application is...
Well, it's kind of course, it's been a learning process, this whole thing.
Right.
I don't think many people know about Proposition 8 or 13 and all that.
Right.
And in the meanwhile, I found out about it's only supposed to go up 2% in value a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, I don't know if you want to pass these out, the tax rates have went up, way more than 2% a year.
Before we do that, I just want to get an idea from the application of how, what the basis is of the application. Mr. Vlahakis, maybe you can actually guide us on this, and then we'll figure out how to proceed.
So I think it's what he wrote here in other. Actually, I should confirm, the applicant has indicated they're not requested findings of fact. Is the assessor requesting findings of fact?
Well, yeah.
The assessor is not requesting findings of fact.
Okay, no findings of fact. I just wanted so council could prepare. So in section I other, they wrote changed over 2% for several years. The fact that a property's value increased is not an appealable event, so that kind of isn't anything that can. I don't really know what to do here, Chairman. When the applicant submitted their application in our office on October 2nd, we advised that they select decline in value. Our notes indicate that the person that helped them indicated the applicant was insistent on addressing the 2% increase and doesn't want to go after market value. We tried to explain Proposition 13. Basically, I don't think there's an option on the application that can be checked that addresses that situation. And as I'm aware, the only thing that they would be eligible to check is to request a decline in value based on market conditions, box A. But like I've said, it's our understanding when we received the application, they didn't want to do that. So that's why there
Perhaps I
wasn't
can
an-
interject. I noticed the applicant has an opinion of value of $205,150, whereas the value on the roll is $310,675. So your opinion is that it's grossly overvalued as of the lien date?
Correct. Well, if he could pass these out, he could better explain what happened in 2008. When I bought the property, I talked to Mr. Dunham quite intensively back and forth. They never accepted the sales price of the property. And then after that, it went down in value for 4 years. And then right after that, it spiked up just way over 2% for the next 4 years or 5 years. I know we can't go back to 2008, but this is what happened to me. And I don't, now I know I could probably be an assessor right now, but prior to that, I don't think many people know all this stuff. They get the postcard in the mail, they probably throw it away, unless it's a big, increase or decrease. So basically, I bought the property for $286,500. That was never accepted. $220,000 was what we settled on, what I settled on reluctantly. I had to settle with him. And basically, from there, from the 2020, went down in value every year to what I bought it for, actually below what I bought it for. And then now, we're at $310,000.
Perhaps.
So, whatever, you want to say,
If
that's
you
wrong.
believe that the current market value is closer to $205,000,
That would be the taxable value. Because I would take, $186,500 times 10%, and that's what I'm seeking today without any money back or anything like that, to restart that value. I know the value today is what it is, but I bought it 10 years ago, and it shouldn't be that much. It shouldn't have went up $123,500 in taxable value.
So let me just interject first. Let me interject for a second, and then we'll figure out what how or what to do. It seems like this probably should have been resolved before it came to a hearing, because I don't know that it's something that is appealable. But when the base year value was set when you bought it, it was there, and then even if the assessor elected to decrease the value under Proposition 8, voluntarily without an application, let's say it goes down by 20%, the next year it could go back up to that whole 20% plus
Correct,
the 2%
yeah, it go up to market value. Yeah, I understand everything now.
Okay.
Unfortunately, right now, it's went up way over the 2% a year.
Right.
And if you want to,
So it is allowed under, if it had previously been reduced under a Proposition 8 decline in value, it is allowed to go up by more than 2% a year, as long as it doesn't go past the factored base year value, which is the original base year value plus 2% a year.
Right.
So it could go kind of crazy like that, as long as it doesn't hit that ceiling.
Correct.
And
And I guess the base year value was 380, and I bought it for 186, and it shouldn't have been that high, and I guess I should have been here right when I bought it, but.
I believe there's a 4-year expiration date.
Correct.
On the
But
base year value application.
Yeah, everywhere I read, it says basically the Proposition 13 base rate is established when you buy the property.
Right.
And it never changes.
Mr. Denham, is the 310,000 that's on the roll, is that a Prop 8 value?
No, sir. That's Prop 13 value as of 1/1/17, sir.
So that's that top factored 2% increase from the original base year value. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So it may have even gone up, who knows how many percent. When it hits that ceiling, it's there.
No, that's the ceiling. That's,
Right, but
my
that's the
actual
top it
value
could
of the
be,
property is
yeah.
higher than that.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I guess the question I have is whether we have authority to hear an application based on the Prop 13 factored base year value, which is something that we can't, at this point, have any effect on. Or the only other option would be a Prop 8 decline in value application,
Right.
if the applicant thinks the value is lower than.
Right, unless the assessor's aware of any other assessments, they'd be eligible to appeal, but I believe it's only the January 1st, 2017, they're eligible to appeal, and there is a property tax rule on basically saying the board can't consider the year-over-year increase, but I can't find it at the moment.
To the assessor, you said that you were prepared with the case?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
What type of case are you prepared for?
I brought multiple exhibits. One for the 1/1/17 valuation, and one for any discussion with regards to if the board decides to engage in the Prop 13 2% rabbit hole.
So I think the only available appealable thing, for lack of a better term, would be a decline in value, a Prop 8 decline in value, if the applicant thinks that the January 1/17 value is lower than the adjusted Prop
Yes,
8, Prop 13
and to
value.
the applicant, what case are you prepared for today?
Well, I was prepared for pretty much, now it's Proposition 13 with it's only supposed to be 2% per year that the value goes up. And every year it's went up more than 2%. And so basically, I guess it's supposed to, so now I've learned that it's supposed to go up to the base value, which is $280,000, which is way overpriced for what I bought it for. But then after it hit that mark, it still went up. So I guess the reinstated, so what sparked this whole thing is I get to think.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, we're trying to just figure out, what are you prepared, what case are you?
For anything.
All right, so you brought comparables showing what?
No. I just basically.
Did you bring any comparables?
No, what I brought was basically the tax I've paid and the amount that it's went up over the 2%.
We understand that, but no comparables as far as the value as of a specific date?
Right, well, we can't go back, to 2008, unfortunately. So I didn't.
Gotcha.
But it seems like you're talking about history about the hangars, so.
So we know that the assessed value is allowed to go up more than 2% a year if it is going back from that margin between a Prop 8 decline in value level to the factored base year value, which is the original sale price, I think in this case, plus 2% every year.
Well, it's never been at the sales price. We went back and forth about that.
Sounds like it is now.
Well, it's way over it.
Yeah. Plus-
So it's 280. So I guess my argument right now would be, it's up to 310, and if my base value is 280.
Yeah. Does the assessor have some kind of illustration that shows tracks the Prop 13 factored base year value?
Yes, I do. Do I have it with me? Yes, I do.
Okay.
We-
I'm just saying that might be something that at least clarifies, where it can be conceivably each year in the past and in the future, right? Otherwise, I'm not a lawyer nor the clerk, so I don't know that we have the authority to hear an application related to it.
I am neither the lawyer or the authority, but I believe Brandon was looking for, is it 305? My goodness.
I thought I knew where the rules were, and I just can't find it right now.
It's,
So, Ms. Porsche, I don't think, unless we hear that there's a valuation
if the
case
applicant-
prepared, that there's anything we can do.
If the applicant thought that, considering everything that's been said today by all parties present, that he was here to try and argue for a decline in value from the January 1 lien date value, if you thought you could present a case on that, then perhaps the board should consider the amendment of the application, and we hear that case, and we see what your evidence is, and we hear the assessor's case.
Right.
Now, you might not have prepared a very good case for that issue, but if you think you have a shot at that issue, then you can request that, and the board can consider amending the application. Otherwise, I don't know that we have a.
Thank you.
Well,
you put the issue
I'm
away.
I'm just as confused as you, and I do have a recording on my phone with Mr. Dunham saying everything's fine, everything is, we all agree that there's a Proposition 13 value problem, and so that's why I'm here. And he called back 4 minutes later. I don't know, they're laughing, that's sad. He called back 4 minutes later, said, oh, no, they kicked it back, everything's fine. So, out of all the people that pay taxes, there's only a few people here. So I don't know, it just seems like a lot of people are being taken advantage of or just being thrown under the
Well,
rug.
if you want to have a hearing today, since you waited patiently for your case to be heard,
Okay.
if you, the only mechanism that I believe will get you a hearing before the board is if you say, board, I'd please like you to consider a decline in value. And then you might not have the evidence, but
Okay.
we'll see what you have. And then if you ask the board to amend the application, then they can at least entertain a valuation case.
Okay.
And then weigh
Okay,
your
yeah,
evidence.
anything, that's fine.
Okay, so are you requesting then that the application be amended to a decline in value application as of January 1 of 17?
I guess. I mean,
Okay.
I've explained to you about the,
I think that, but let me just come right back to you. If there is something that's available that the assessor can show, just an illustration of whatever the Prop 13 factored base year value is, like a graph or something, that might help solve that whole issue?
You mean the spikiness of
Well,
Prop
there's a-
13 and Prop 8 and how it adjusts?
Well, ideally,
Or are you
both.
talking about his value?
No.
So I had that was shown to the applicant when he
okay.
submitted his application on the day we suggested that he add that
Right.
to his application. Just what I'm understanding from this is the issue is that the assessor didn't accept purchase price, so therefore the calculations are wrong, is what the general sense. And then the board can't consider that because it's been more than 4 years.
Right.
So, do I not have the illustration?
Mr. Clerk, you were looking for a citation, and it may have been Property Tax Rules 305C1G.
Yes, I just found that about 5 minutes ago. It says, the amount of the tax or the amount of the assessed value increase shall not constitute fact sufficient to warrant a change in assessed value. And so that just clarifies that the fact that it may or may not have increased more than 2% can't really be considered as a fact.
If the application is amended to Prop 8 decline in value, it would also be an option, I think, to continue to a future date if the applicant has no case prepared.
That's correct. The assessor would actually have to waive their right to move forward to the continuance in order to move forward today, which they said they have their stuff, so I don't know if it matters one way or the other. But the applicant did also, I believe they said they don't believe the market value for 2017 is less than what the assessment is, so.
Is that correct, Mr.?
What? Well, this is the market value, 2000. I mean, I'm not going to, today's market value.
So you believe the assessment, this 2017 assessment is accurate?
Well, I don't think, I think it is based on market value, but it's went over the 2%.
Understood.
Of carbon 13.
Okay.
That's my whole issue. So I don't know what to.
So it sounds like
I mean, it's been a very confusing thing for even, like I said, I have a recorded message that they said everything was fine, and we're going to send it over to a different department, and then 4 minutes later, said, oh, no, they kicked it back. It's not fine.
Okay.
They're right.
So we'll just deliberate for 1 second in terms of moving forward. It sounds to me like the applicant is not disputing the current assessment, but is disputing the fact that his assessment is increased by more than 2% per year. And it sounds like that can be clarified, or maybe already has been clarified by, I do well with pictures, but like a graph showing the factored base year value versus the actual. But I don't think that we have authority to do anything right now.
With the applicant's concession that he believes the market value, the roll value would be, which is 310,675 is market value, then we can't really, then you wouldn't really be asking for a decline in valuation by the board.
Right.
So I would agree that there isn't a case before the board within its jurisdiction. However, perhaps just for the benefit of the applicant, even if the board would be inclined at this point to dismiss the case, maybe we can ask the assessor's office, since they said they had prepared the tables showing the Prop 13 2% increase and what happened under Prop 8, and then when they recouped, maybe they should just give an informational briefing to the taxpayer as a courtesy, so that at least the taxpayer understands the situation of his valuation, and then we can review it. And if there's no mathematical error in it, then there wouldn't be any. And if there was any mathematical error, I'd expect the assessor to recognize that fact and make an appropriate correction. But at least if there's no error, at least the taxpayer has the information and understands how his valuation has come to the present day value.
The information that I have in front of me does not address historical Prop 8 values. What it addresses is the value that was originally enrolled and the indexing throughout time to present, whether it was 2% or less than 2%, and how we arrived at that. And now, one of the other issues may be, and I don't know if this is the applicant's contention, is that the special assessments that are added on to the tax base. Oh, look at this. Clerk of the board put that up. The special assessments that are put on the tax bill itself are in addition to anything that the assessor derives. And the assessor has nothing to do with any of the special assessments.
I haven't had any special assessments. I don't know. I guess my question is, so in 2016-17, my tax was $291, taxable value, and then this year is 310. And then, so like I said, what sparked me to come here and file and everything was, it says, I'm finally reinstated for my Proposition 13, only 2%. Why wasn't this reinstated before that?
Why wasn't?
The Proposition 13
Sorry.
reinstated?
Why wasn't Proposition 13 instead? It's because the factored base year value of your property was higher than market value. That's why you were at the 291. And then market caught up to your factored base year value, and it was later reinstored.
I just don't.
I think this graphic explains pretty clearly how it works. And Mr. Vlahakis, did you say that this was supplied to the applicant?
Based on, during the appeals filing period, we keep a laminated copy of this at our counter, and based on the notes, I did not personally interact with this applicant, but based on the notes, they were explained the difference and were suggested to mark the selection, and were given this to review.
Would it be possible to get one today for the applicant before?
Yeah, this is on our website. I can get it printed out. Yeah.
So that's great. And I don't think we have the authority to do anything else other than to provide this information.
Sure. To the applicant, do you see that when on that chart, there toward the middle, there's a value of 325, and then it grows to 365 the next year?
Correct. Yeah.
This is a 12% increase. That may be, the particular case, that may be what you see going on, where there's spikes greater than 2%, but the growth curve is still under the Prop 13 factored base year value, and that's why it's permitted. So, I mean, this might just have been informational to you, that you've been treated.
I'm sure, I don't know what percentage of people know all this.
Right.
Probably very low.
But where you came here concerned that you've been treated inequitably because your increases were growing at more than 2% a year, do you see that if this was going on, that you are in fact being treated like similarly situated taxpayers who have a similar relationship?
Yeah, I mean,
between
it's really a sad situation. I didn't want to bring my other property in that I bought a year later, and it's $100,000 lower in value, and it's the same thing. It's actually worth more because they accepted the purchase price, and it just went up a little bit. It just went up, 2% a year, like it's supposed to. This property is now more than a property I bought a year later, and it's more than my house. The price, and it's just basically numbers, like you say. And the sad thing is, I guess I didn't come here in 2008. Well, actually, I couldn't even dispute it properly. He never accepted the purchase price, and that's a sad thing. And I don't know what percentage that you debate that purchase price. I guess the airport hangar, that was one, that you didn't agree on the price the person paid for it. But the property that when I bought it for $186,500, it was, it was pretty much what things were going. Everything was going down. And so to do the value before that is kind of, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess.
Okay, so I think we have done as much as we can do today, and I do think it's really good if we can provide that graphic, a hard copy to Mr. Hanson if possible.
Okay. Yeah, I will see. I don't know if anyone in my office is watching right now and can bring one down.
If not,
but
at
I will
least
send
maybe a
them an
link,
email.
just something that shows him a link to that on the website. And I don't think we have any other decision that we have the ability to make based on the current state. So,
all right,
Mr. Crowe. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you being here, and
right.
Hopefully we can get enough information to figure out how to proceed in the future.
I don't know. So to sell the property, but that's $80,000 in taxes.
All right.
Right?
Thank you.
All right.
To council, What should the board do? My thing is the board should
I
take a
can
motion
give
to
an
deny
opinion.
jurisdiction.
I'm giving an opinion to the board that the application as filed does not present an action over which the board has jurisdiction to provide relief.
Correct.
And it would be my recommendation to the board that they dismiss the application without holding a valuation hearing.
So moved.
Do we need to take action on that? I don't know that it's appropriate for us to take action if there's nothing that we
Well, the
can take
board
action
is,
on.
in the first instance,
Yeah.
is the arbiter of whether or not it has
Okay.
jurisdiction over an
So
action.
we should
So that
then-
you can say
okay.
the board agrees it lacks jurisdiction.
Sorry. Moved by Mr. Curtis,
Seconded by me.
seconded by Mr. Crow, and the motion carries. Thanks, Ms. Porsche. Glad you're here.
Welcome. Thank you, Brendan, for finding that graph.
Well, Rick, what's the actual value of that house now?
I had sort of model matches that went from a low of 320 to a high of 340. So it's a little bit under, it's an end unit, so it's probably more like the 340 units, to be honest with you. It's a pretty good location.
I lost my agenda. Here it is. Okay.
On an end, so, but it was, all of my comps were model matches, and they were all above the Prop 13 value. So from a value standpoint, I really didn't have much latitude.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of the agenda, we have completed everything, and I think we'll adjourn and then go into,
There's the one validity hearing where we're requesting rejection.
Oh, yeah.
If the board wants to take a lunch break and come back, think I'm the only one talking on that unless the assessor has something to say. So I'm fine with doing it now, or the board going and getting food and doing a quick 5-minute before they go to closed session, whatever you guys want to do. I don't think this will take me that long, but there's certain facts I have to go over because there were such issues with this application. So
did you say 5 minutes?
I can try to talk fast.
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to rush you, just
Do you
trying to
want to do it
gauge.
now?
Depends on how long it's going to take.
My write-up is 1 page, and then I just have a bunch of documents to show non-compliance, basically.
I'd be okay with going ahead unless
I'm
anybody
okay.
has any objections.
I'll talk
Okay.
as quickly as I can.
Take your time. And this is item, thank you, 36, application 17-11296.
Okay.
Applicant Cole Irrevocable Trust.
So, basically, the reason we're here, the assessment appeal application was submitted without agent authorization. We made attempts to obtain it. We weren't given it, and only your board can reject it. So, we're requesting the board reject the filed application due to the failure to comply with Property Tax Rule 305, which states, for purposes of signing an application on behalf of an applicant, an agent shall have been deemed to have been duly authorized if the applicant's written authorization is on the application or attached to each application at the time it was filed with the board. Following this, you'll see a copy of the application. Section 2 was not signed, and there's nothing attached to it. The next thing following the application is my email correspondence with them. We requested they provide authorization on numerous occasions. I gave them so much time to do this. I emailed them on October 23rd, 25th, and October 31st, and then I spoke with a representative of the agent company being Property Tax Back on October 25th. In addition, we also believe they're in violation of Business and Professions Code 17537.9, which requires that they have authorization and finds it unlawful if they file an application without it. And then just to tack on, they didn't even file this by September 15th. They postmarked it September 29th. So had we got authorization and had the chance to discuss why it wasn't timely filed, at this point, they haven't given us any proof that it was timely filed. So, again, got the application with our receive stamp. They indicate they signed it September 15th, but it wasn't postmarked until the 29th.
Mr. Vlahakis, has the applicant or their agent or anyone indicated that they wanted to be here today?
They did not. So you'll see in my email correspondence, I emailed, following the applications, the email, of course, it's in reverse order. First, I emailed Mr. Cornelius Webb, and he didn't respond. So I called and spoke with his assistant, Paulina Stanton, an agent I work with frequently, and she said, "Oh, I hadn't seen the email. He's out of the office. Can you forward it to me?" So you can see where I just kind of forwarded the email to her. And I talked to her, let her know it's coming. Because I didn't hear back from that, I emailed them again. I emailed Paulina saying, "Hey, we didn't get anything." And then she responded, trying to contact him. I then followed up with a phone call. She couldn't explain why it wasn't provided. And then I get into official correspondence mode. I've sent them an official letter giving them a final attempt to resolve it with a copy to the taxpayer in case the taxpayer wanted to intervene in this. They never responded. I sent the notice of hearing on November 13th, which is the last notice. That went to the agent as well as the taxpayer.
Okay.
And they never responded. They didn't submit confirmation or anything. So,
What type of property is this?
They have nothing marked. Had they fixed the issue with the authorization, I would have then been able to clarify you didn't make a mark property type. I'm assuming it's probably residential.
Do you deal with this company quite a bit?
Not really.
I recall in years past, unless I'm wrong, a situation where the same agent, like two different agents had filed for the same applicant, and I believe Cornelius Webb was one of them. And it was something where the clerk's office had to sort out who was the agent that really had authority.
Yeah, I don't recall.
But that's going on memory.
Right. This agent hasn't been here in a few years. He has been here in the past. I think he's only showed up for a validity hearing. When we had subsequent valuations hearings, he didn't show up. So I wasn't.
Is it okay if I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I think Mr. Vlahakis has gone far beyond what is required, and I would recommend that we deny the application due to, I'm not sure exactly how we should word it. It's because the agent.
Right, we would just
ratified.
request that the board take action to reject the application. And it's for, if you want to specify, because they didn't provide authorization, because it's not timely, you can do so.
Okay.
But we want to, and we're requesting that instead of a denial, when it kind of secures the fate of this application a little better, and just because they were giving us so many issues, we don't want to risk the chance of this a can of worms being opened by it being denied for lack of appearance versus failure to comply with all the rules. So that's our request.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Curtis and seconded by Mr. Crow, and motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Vlahakis, for all of that, your due diligence.
And that completes your agenda. Time is 12:49 p.m.
Okay, so we'll adjourn now and then deliberate after at 12:48.
Thank you.